Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our podcast for Sound Espressivo. I'm Anna Uspinskaya and I'll be your host. Sound Espressivo is a new generation of classical music competition, which offers contestants to perform in live broadcasts from their own location anywhere in the world. Sound Espressivo panel of judges represents top performing artists and music educators from around the globe. Sound Espressivo competition offers an unprecedented array of awards for musicians. Welcome to our podcasts. Meet the judges, music promoters and managers, and music educators.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressivo Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world, prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.
I would like to introduce our incredible guests for today's podcast, Jonghun Bai, a conductor of enormous versatility. Jonghun, you have held posts and guest conductor positions with symphony orchestras, opera companies all over the world, chamber orchestras, ensembles. I can't even finish counting all of that. And you're a true world-class musician by recognition of your enormous talent, by your accomplishments, of course, but not only. You have traveled the world extensively for your conducting appearances and engagements. You collaborated with musicians and ensembles who represent musical communities and cultures as diverse as North America, Europe, Asia, South America. Welcome to our podcast. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Anna, for having me for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I'm really honored.
Thank you. And Robert Voisey. Rob, you are a composer, a music entrepreneur, you're producer of hundreds of classical music events and in different countries and in vastly diverse settings with many, many years of experience working with musicians, ensembles, dance companies, just to name a few fields. You're managing an enormous network of composers worldwide and you have been helping connect performers with living composers, composers with companies who are looking for commission new music, concert venues with both. You have led your several organizations successfully through the maze of ever-changing music scene. Thank you. It's an honor to have you both. Thank you for joining today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Anna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I have a ton of questions, and I'm sure we'll run out of time before I even get a chance to ask them. But how does this incredible openness of collaborating across cultures and traditions shape you as a musician? What does connecting across the world mean to you? Jong-hoon, you first, and Rob, please pitch in because both of you are incredibly diverse musicians.
Yeah, I mean those opportunities and to working with the other musicians, I mean it's incredible, and I learned so many things from them, not just musically, but also as you mentioned, I mean their cultures and traditions, that makes me a better musician, not only a musician but also as a human being in person as well. So we can share all their insights and my insights, and I learned every single second that the moment that I'm working with them. It's just incredible, incredible things, and connecting across the world. It's, I mean, one point I think, it's almost impossible for me to go somewhere, some other countries that uses different languages that communicate each other. But with music, we can express all kinds of emotions and everything with music, and it easily put us on the same place so that we can just discuss anything through the music. I mean, that's just wonderful, wonderful things that only music can provide.
I totally agree. It's so funny how, like, people talk about the global village, and we are in this global village of where the internet sort of kind of is starting to sow all the different prisms of different angles of how people look at things. And language is such a perfect example where people are literally communicating different words, different fashions, different, but it's also like different ideologies. You're very quickly when you enter the world stage and you start seeing things from different perspectives, that there are different ways of looking at stuff. And again, yeah, you're right. It's the beauty of music is you get to see the variety and the
Right.
sort of like tapestry of so much color and diversity, but there's also it's like that single thread that like music is one of those things that binds us all together. We have been
Right.
doing music for such a long time, and even if it's like a different modal system or a different instrument or a different, it could be a lot of different ways to look at music or experience it. We the feeling of it is still universal to all humans.
Isn't that
Right.
amazing?
Right.
How we truly do get connected. We put aside our differences and we are focused on what connects and brings us together through music. That is to me also very personal and very powerful
Well,
experience.
and I think just to keep with the like this sort of like different languages and that
Mm,
connection is when you are immersed in like uh, basically let's say wherever you are you have nothing to you don't have that common thread.
mhm.
You very quickly begin to see like what is common when you're doing music. Like all of a sudden you're like,
Right.
oh yeah, this is that. I do the same thing and so forth. And it's a connectivity that sort of sparks and energizes very quickly.
Yeah, I remember my first experience when I go out abroad, and I had no idea what to say and what to do, and so forth. But as soon as we start music together, it just put us in the same place. It was so great.
Everybody, yeah. Whatever your previous experience or culture and way of communicating in language, in clothing, in behavior, in manners, all of that becomes united when we start playing music because there are phrases, there are rhythms, and there are harmonies in
Hmm.
every culture's music. But still, I want to challenge you a little bit because, yes, all that connectivity and bringing people together from different cultures, of course, has great opportunities, but also probably has some challenges. Can you briefly touch on those? What the challenges are?
Well, from my experience, yes, I mean, like you mentioned, that there are opportunities and the challenges happening. But from my experience, it always the opportunities and challenges come at the same time. I mean, for example, I have to prepare some new repertoire, and if I go to somewhere else, I have to fight along with jet lag, other things like food or water. I mean, everything. But those small things, maybe I can phrase as a challenges, but I'm trying to find the beauty out of the challenges for the opportunity and the goal that I'm gonna make, which is making music together.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's not like there aren't challenges. There's always challenges and different things, but literally the challenges make opportunities to create something better.
Right, you are absolutely right. No challenges means no opportunity, no creatures.
Yes, that is so much so. And how does that reflect to our drive, our Sound Espressivo community drive? We have over 200 musicians, co-creators of this initiative, of this competition. So how does what you just say reflect in our drive to connect musicians now on a virtual space, and not only through virtual space, but also through live performance in the virtual space, which is fairly scary and new thing nowadays. How do you reflect on that?
Well, that's some sort of that tricky question. Also, it's very good question, I think. But
Well, I don't
I
mean easy
mean,
questions.
I
You're
mean
here for tricky
nowadays,
questions.
yeah, nowadays we have this wonderful technology, which is internet. We can connect to people throughout the world without almost no limitation. So we can share some things just instantly if there is anything. Like, for instance, I can share some informations with Rob, and we can work together sometimes. And also, that's, I mean, the great beauty of what we are trying to do. Also, I love to work with the young musicians to help them understand how music is composed and how it is the characterized. So hopefully, it can be a great way of connecting them through internet, not only the virtual space, but through their live performances. So we can kind of go. The sort of feedback is coming back and forth instantly. That might be the one positive or advantage that we can have and we can try to expose to the musicians.
Yeah, and that is, of course, a very important part of the Sound Espressivo competition because the judges are going to be watching the performances live and sharing the immediate feedback, not the decisions of the judges panel,
Right,
whether the contestant advances to the next round, but the immediate artistic feedback will be provided to
right,
the contestants right on the spot.
right.
Rob, to you.
Yeah, and I think absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think as far as like challenges going, I think it. So look, we live in a difficult climate right now, and in some ways, obviously, like it's a push for innovation, but for me, in a lot of ways, this has been a long time coming. There's for the challenges are like tradition and technology. So there's everything's a push and shove. When do you embrace tradition and when do you like forge out for something new? And with technology it's the same. It's like, well, not every technological advance is something that's going to help you or be good or
That is so
it
true.
be advantageous. And even if it is, what's the um, sort
It
of
also depends on your
technological
ways.
divide. Hmm.
It depends on how you use the new technology, right?
Exactly.
And how you apply the tradition in the new environment. So you retain the best from the tradition instead of losing it in the movement forward
Right.
in the new ways of making music.
And
And
Right,
traditionally,
right.
music was a live performance. Recording music is a fairly new invention too.
very new.
So
Right.
maybe, 100 plus years, not as new as live performing through the internet, but for the major part of human history, it was the live human interaction, a language which lived in that moment.
And you know what? To take it one step further, and like people don't actually realize, but the physical act of writing compositions and recording them for future performance is actually how you how it turned from people just memorizing things and it being passed down from person to person to person to like now we have a piece of paper. This is how
Right.
it's supposed to be performed in the
Right,
future. So the
right.
recording, and even that, while it's hundreds of years old, it's still fairly new compared to music.
That's true.
Absolutely,
And Jonghun,
absolutely.
you're primarily a performer and educator. So what is your take on there's a lot of conversations about recording and uploading your perfectly edited recording, vice versa, stepping into live performance or internet or on live stage. What does it feel like to you?
Well, I personally prefer to go on live rather than using a recording things. Um, I heard once the conductor one of the big maestro talk about. He said that if you want to feel real music and that vibrates, and if you want the music to move your heart, you have to go to the live performance. And I myself have experienced that even if I listen to the same music, it totally gives me a different ideas and different challenges when was presented myself in the concert hall versus when I was recording in the same piece. So I like going live performance and being sitting in the audience and feel that music by myself. It's really important, and I think that Rob, you might have the same idea that when your music performed on live, gives you a totally different atmosphere rather than your music playing by a recording CD or something like that. Oh, what do you think?
It's a completely different atmosphere. It is literally two unique performances, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so funny because I feel like in a lot of ways people kind of treat music differently from some other arts, but
Mm-hmm.
in this pandemic we've been able to see sort of behind the curtains.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorites is like I'm looking at all these night show hosts,
Mhm.
and they don't have an audience,
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of lost. I mean, they're doing a good
Right.
job. But it's funny how much, and they've talked about it, even like there's no audience that they can sort of feed from and like
Mm-hmm.
get energy from and like find out like, oh, this is going right or this is going wrong
Right.
or
Mm-hmm.
and I think musicians were a little bit. Um, let's just say we plow through a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like if the
Mm-hmm.
audience reacts in a certain way, we're not we're not gonna we're not gonna change course per se. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it isn't there. Like I perform as well and so forth, and I've been in performances where you're on. You're
Mm-hmm.
hitting all the right notes, you're hitting it the right way, the conductor is bringing you on and so forth. And you look out into the audience and you can see they're just like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a feeling, it's indescribable. The only way you can describe it is to someone who's been there before and you're like, that feeling? And they're like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Now, there is a controversy, of course, existing in online virtual performance because even though we can, we can see right up there in the window how many people are watching us currently, but we can't see those people. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I I'm gonna reserve my own take on that because I listen to a lot of people and I like to ask that question, and I have asked over 300 of our musicians who participated in our programs before. So I'm kind of like doing my own personal survey on that. But I want to ask you, when you are virtually online in a performance, do you or do you not feel the presence of the world out there and people actually being part of that moment performance? Or is it still feel more artificial to you?
I I think
Go ahead.
it's again. I'll take it back to tradition and technology. So there's first of all, this is sort of like the tradition of like, oh, here's a performance going on, and it's going out to people and so forth. And or are you doing something that maybe is a little bit more intimate or whatever? Like there's a let's say a difference between let's say a Zoom call and you can see people going on and so forth. So there's that stuff that's going on, and then the interaction is kind of different for even like go tradition like what we're using right now. I can see people talking on the screen and shaking their head or not or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's that, and then there's the part of like so yes, I'm gauging as far as that it would be different if I was like looking at a blank screen and I was just like doing my monologue, right? And then the other thing is the technology. So there's what I love. I've done a couple of these now too myself, and there's the chat function. So anybody that's listening to this, you want to chat, please do. We see it, and you can feed off of that. Like in past webinars that we've done, like people are starting to chime in and so forth, and then you realize, oh yeah, like this is the topic we got to keep talking about, or this is. So there is that sort of feedback going on, and I think there can be more. How about that? I think technology hasn't reached a place where
people can connect even more on that chat kind of
Mm-hmm.
version of communication. And there
Mm-hmm.
probably could be even more than in the concert hall, because when you go to concert hall, you got to behave. You can't really chat with the person next to you or you'll be shushed, right? Jung-hoon, what's your take on that?
Well, as you all know, me as a conductor, once I step on the stage, sometimes I don't notice the audience because they are behind me. So I don't even know whether they are. Sometimes when I really put myself in the music and stage, some sometimes I sense that I'm kind of a little bit of distanced from the audience members. I don't know how many there are, and I sometimes I don't even care what they do. I just do my own work. So on that side of it, it may it may not give me a whole lot of different point, and performing in the virtual space, but like you mentioned earlier, it might be a little bit different because I can't really share that moment on a same place. So that might be a little different.
And let's watch a little bit of Jung-hoon's performance, and we'll see what he means when he talks about connection with musicians. Bravo. That's
Thank
such a wonderful performance. Thank you, Jonghun, for sharing this. This is
thank you.
wonderful. And I wanted to ask, not to change the subject, but Robert, you're here in two capacities as a judge of the Sound Espressivo, but also as a representative of a company which offers one, in my opinion, one of the most unique prizes. I have never been in a competition which offers a prize like what you're offering, a winner of the Sound Espressivo. Can you please touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So what we're offering is to one, let's say one winner, uh, opportunity to be a part of this concert series I created called 15 Minutes of Fame.
Mhm.
And so about this project, it's a spin-off from another one of my projects called 60 by 60. But in essence, it's what we do is we put out a call for 1 minute works written for a specific performer. So, let's say the performer is a pianist. We ask composers to write 1 minute works for piano. For that composer to select 15 of their favorites, or what they think they want to perform, and then we perform it at a concert, performance. You get a performance, and we put those
Robert,
15 in
I
a
don't
row.
mean to interrupt, but when you're saying you put out the call, can you
Sure.
just give a scope of what that means in your company?
Right. So that's what we're doing once we've kind of like fixed on who's going to be the performer.
And you pick the
Um,
winner to be the
yeah, in this
performer.
case, it'll be a winner from Sound Espressivo. So, as the contestants are going through, we'll be like judging them, and so this prize will be awarded to someone who we think that this deserves this prize.
Mhm.
And then what we do is search out for composers to specifically write original new compositions
Mhm.
for that musician specifically.
To me, that is one of the most incredible things. As a pianist, I'm a concert pianist and an educator, and I have collaborated with composers all my life, with new composers. And this is something so precious and so unique for my experience to have a living composer pay attention to who I am as a performer
Mhm.
and write the music which will reflect his artistry, but equally pay attention to my artistry, my technique, my approach to composition, my preference to colors, and that collaboration. I collaborated with a number of composers. Rodion Shidrin is one of them. I recorded a full album of his music, and that was one of the most mind-blowing experience to me as a performer and a growth experience, because we basically worked together on the interpretation of his music, and it was just absolutely the most enriching experience to me. So just, but please
And
go on.
and I yeah, and and that's the I feel like the sort of connectivity between musicians and composers is a little bit separated. Composers
Mhm.
are kind of like over here, and that's
Mhm.
like they write in their cave, and they're scribbling in their stuff, and they put it out into the universe, and they're hoping musicians will pick it up. And on the same side, like musicians, they have their tradition and all of the library of pieces that they've got. Um, but for them, it's hard to find like composers and their unique pieces and so forth.
Mhm.
And I think that so that connectivity has a lot of different barriers.
Mhm.
Some of it is the scores aren't in the library, or the composer doesn't put them out online, or doesn't do this, or he only sells it under this publisher. But there's also another part of where there's uh, uh, both vanity and embarrassment to sort of asking and talking to each other. Music, we're talking a lot. Music is very personal and very, so I think it's hard for people to like get out there and for like musicians ask composers, and composers ask musicians.
That's
So
right.
and then there's and then forget about just like sort of melting that to get to know you because
Mhm.
Exactly, the get to know you part. And
because
Right.
musicians have, like you said, musicians have aesthetics. They want to do this, that, and the other thing, and they don't really want to tell someone, anybody, like, you wrote a great piece, but that's just not my style. They don't even want, you know what I mean? Like that's so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing I want to little bit of interrupt is that as a performer myself, it's really important. One thing I noticed that it's really important to have a working with a living composer and perform their work. I mean,
And
I
I know,
don't
Jonghun,
mean
you work with a lot of newly written music too. So you're speaking from your
right.
own personal experience. Yep,
Right. I mean, I don't mean dishonor our heritage and our history. I mean, the 200, 300 years of the classical music history. But it's also important that we work with who we live with. So like
exactly.
Rob, like you, and like you mentioned, get to know who you are and who I am, the working together, and we create new history and new heritage, maybe 50 years, 100 years from now on.
Right.
So I think that's really important part of our duty as a musician.
Yeah, I agree. And it was so funny. I was talking to a great pianist, Stephen Porter, and one of his comments was he's like he always tells his students work with contemporary composers. He's like because you will find out things from them, from their compositions and so forth, that you can apply to composers that are long gone, and you can't ask them questions. But now you can get into their head a little bit because you're like,
Exactly.
oh, this is what they do. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah,
and
you get that insight into how the music is created. As performers, we maybe take the composition class, but it's limited. We're focused on the performance classes and or our life. We don't really compose. It's been in the history when the composer and performer were one, but no longer. There's a division, and that division can be bridged by collaborating with living composers. So I think, Robert, this is just an incredible opportunity you're offering a winner who is ready for that kind of work, of course, to have that experience of collaborating with 15 living composers. And I know your organization has members from all over the world. So those musicians are going to bring their tradition, their different approaches, and enrich that one winner or however you decide to distribute that prize
and we
with incredible experience.
yeah, and so we've done this. We've done more than 100 calls for different musicians and different ensembles, and the
Numbers,
major.
Robert, of your organization numbers are just mind blowing. Over 100 calls. And how many people normally submit to each call?
It varies, but I would say our average is we get somewhere between 60 and 100 submissions for each call. Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable. That means like, let me do my mental math. 10,000 submissions or 6,000 submissions?
We've gotten a lot of submissions. We've gotten that's for sure.
That's amazing. And so
Right.
this is going to be coming from that pot of world top class composers who are recognized, performed by major orchestras, opera companies, and they will be composing for a winner. I'm going to, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to segue to my next bunch of questions. Like I said, I don't get a chance to ask them all, but I'm going to try. You both are the judges for Sound Espressivo, and this is a completely new concept. The judging is reinvented. We reinvented it together, and lots of ideas were incorporated, and some didn't quite fit. It's the first one, but still, I would like to ask both of you: what are your expectations for judging Sound Espressivo?
You know, go first, Rob.
Uh, yeah, sure. So I'm trying to not have too many expectations, but I guess I am looking forward to seeing a younger generation.
Hmm.
I think that's uh, yeah. I love in a lot of ways. Okay, so anyway, I'm a new dad, so part of my excitement these days is just seeing how my son sort of like envisions the world and takes things that I think are very new and he has them for granted, and and things that are like just they're just like they're magical to him because
Hmm.
the first times they're seeing it, and I feel like I'm looking forward to seeing how the people are approaching this idea in Espressivo, and what's the is there like an aesthetic or a type of person that approaches this opposed to another? That's what I'm looking forward to.
Very interesting. Jonghun, yours?
Mine is pretty much what Robert says. I'm looking for the musicians of next generations, so that possibly, hopefully, I could have opportunity to work with them and share our insights and helping them, become a better and better. I don't even know how much I can be helpful, but
Oh, you can
that's
be
sort
very
of
helpful. Both of you
that's
can
sort
be
of
so helpful.
that's sort of my goal and sort of the expectations, being in the member of the family, being in the member of the Sound Espressivo.
So, helping young musicians find their own path while
Hmm.
not losing the connection with the tradition. So, that's wonderful that you mentioned that. Now, who do you expect would be? I mean, we're already receiving applicants for the preliminary round, but still, if just in a few words, if you would describe maybe personality, musical experience, or anything else you would like to add to your kind of how you envision the contestants of the Sound Espressivo. Jahun, maybe you
Well,
first this time. Put you in the hot seat, huh?
oh yeah. I mean, there are multiple different ways we can go over, but what I expect is, maybe we can open the door, not only for the who are really professional, sort of close to professionally ready, but at the same time we can open the door who are sort of the newcomers, so that we can provide those opportunities for them, so that they can have more experience, one after another. This time period, with the pandemic, it's really hard for them to get sort of the live experience, things like that.
Can be
So
really
it's
discouraging. Yep, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's we can surely open the door, for widely. That's
J-
my point.
And I wholly, I completely agree. I think that if if anybody is like, if you're out there and you hear this and so forth, know that we are swinging the doors wide open. And literally, if this sounds interesting to you, you should try.
Sure.
There's and that's kind of been my founding principle or my
Hmm.
policy, and it's I think it's hard to express to somebody like it's an open door policy, and
Hmm.
and I don't know how many people are honest even when they say that it's an open door policy, and
Hmm.
it may not be so much of like honesty in that they're directly misleading
Hmm.
someone,
Hmm.
but they just don't get that, like, sure, you might be open, but if you're not
That's
advertising
Right,
everywhere,
right,
then
that's
it's
right.
not
right.
really open. And
Hmm.
and part of the reason why I wanted to be a judge here, and that I'm really excited, is Anna and virtual concert halls and Espressivo have this. I feel the openness,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and I think literally when you're just open, the wonderful things happen. You
That
get
is
lots of diversity. You get lots
Right.
of things you wouldn't expect, but
Hmm.
you had always hoped would happen.
Right.
that is such a good point, and that's what we've been working on with so many musicians. There is one thing to be wishing to open the doors,
Hmm.
but it's a whole different story. The mechanics of it. How do you open the doors? Because you may say, "Yeah, we're open to everyone," but then you create barriers. For example, the contestants apply to competitions and they have to play something, right? They have to
Hmm.
play. They have to choose their repertoire. So competitions say, everybody come in here and please play Bach Sonata, Czerny Etude, Beethoven
Hmm.
Sonata. And this is a limitation already in its own. So when we
Hmm.
were discussing how do we open the doors,
Hmm.
we were discussing how do we overcome the barriers. Because
Hmm.
someone may say, well, I can play Beethoven Sonata and Chopin Nocturne, but I really don't like to play Bach's Fugue. But the other person may say, you know what, Bach's music is my heart, and that's
Hmm.
where I shine. So we, in the Sound Espressivo, we created this first precedent where we say there's only one guidance to the contestants. Please choose the repertoire which expresses your personality, your artistic personality the most.
Hmm.
There's a wealth of repertoire. We're not restricting, we're not requiring, except one. Give it some deep thought, look deeply inside, and choose the repertoire which you can communicate with best.
And
And yeah,
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that look, and to your credit, making those decisions are hard. I don't want to seem like putting anybody down or so forth. There are reasons for you pick a standard repertoire because it's so much easier to
Hmm.
judge somebody, with like apples to apples, oranges to oranges, and so forth.
Hmm.
And it's harder to be able to do that when, let's say, all different styles and aesthetics and so forth, and how do you compare this and that and so forth.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm hoping that the judges and I are up for it. I think we are. I think we're
oh
all
Hmm.
right. But it's I hope that the contestants understand it. Like, the openness door it's an easy concept, but it isn't awesome to it's hard to facilitate.
I guess it has a pros and cons at the same time. Like you mentioned, if we really open the door repertoire-wise, it's really hard to sort of compare between the contestants, and it gives us as a judge a whole lot of work to go through. But
exactly.
yeah, but for contestants' point of view, it's open.
Right.
Like Anna mentioned, pick a piece that you can, which you can express yourself the best. So it gives more opportunity for them. So it's the point is whether is it gonna make us easier to work, or is it make them to easier work?
And you know what? And let me just, I like I said, this is me, but anyway, I just already getting the sort of feeling the love. But when I've run my contests or calls, I've gotten a lot of composers that have asked me, like, "What are you looking for? Like, what type of thing?" And my answer always is, whatever you do, that's what I want to see. Like, the thing that you love the most. You know what? Even if it's like you really want to you want to do this test to see how everybody hears about it or whatever. Please do that. Do the thing that you're strongest about and that you want to go forward for. And this again, it's I get that it's hard for to put yourself out there to be and to submit to something, but better to put your best foot forward and go strong than to be timid about it or to worry about uh, crafting something that somebody else is going to want. Dude,
Yeah, I
Yes.
think you just make a very, I mean, wonderful point that do whatever you love the most. And one thing have seen many times is that the mistake young musicians make is they think somehow, oh, whether the judges or whoever, the audience, whoever out there, whether they will like my performance or not. They think
Yes,
that kind of first, but it doesn't really help for their performing, their playing.
Right.
So yeah, like you mentioned, to put yourself 100% on what you love the most. Then
exactly.
it will translate out there automatically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you are the speaker during the performance. You're not the
Right.
listener. You are the
Right.
one giving. So giving your best yourself is the most convincing way to communicate the art. I have another question. Now, there's a 150 plus years long tradition of competitions, music competitions. Now, this is the first competition which is happening with people connecting in real time from different parts of the world in this new environment, on this new platform. Who do you think would potentially be the new faces who would enter the competitions scene who would otherwise maybe not enter the conventional scene of music competitions?
That's that's actually a difficult question. So I started this project 60 by 60. It's 61-minute works recorded, and they're playing back to back. And we did the call throughout the world. And I can't say that I'm basically a super originator of like short form or even this kind of format and so forth. But what I will say is that I was in a unique position where um, it became possible for us to like send short pieces to each other via the internet from all around the world. And with that, it was also, I was in a unique position where the internet came into a place where it became really a web of connectivity that you could connect to all sorts of different places. So, um, with that said, it it's an you would be surprised who sort of picks up on it, because part of it is just like there's this really vast flow of internet technology going this way or that way. Somebody like basically thinks that your idea is the best idea in the world, and they blast it to all their friends and family and so forth, and it goes through. That person literally can be anywhere in the world, and so
So true.
and it's kind of interesting. Did you like? I didn't know this guy in like Siberia, but he really liked my idea and got it somehow somewhere. So all of a
So
sudden, I
would
get a
you
whole bunch of Siberian pieces. You know
so
what I
would you
mean?
say, Robert, through that approach, you were able to discover some potentially impressive, powerful musicians who would otherwise not be able to, or would not have that opportunity to connect and have their music performed?
Absolutely, absolutely. I for sure. I was exposed to to musicians that were uh,
Hidden in some other
basically
corners.
unknown, hidden in the corners.
Hmm.
Some who have had their following that was there and then grew. Some who were just like I said, they were composing in their cave, and then the project gave them an opportunity to come out. With that said, I've also the biggest thing that I found with my project were these enclaves of, so this is an electronic music project, but these enclaves of electronic music that I hadn't known there existed, so forth. But they were these like communities, and then I was just like, oh, this community is here and here and here, and they would just like then they would start to shine because you'd get pieces from them over and over and over again. Of which, look, I'm in New York City here, and we have a pretty diverse music scene, and we try to keep up with everything that's going on in the world. but I
But you
found
can't keep up with everything that's going
no,
on in the
you
world until you
can't.
are able to reach. And with the Sound Espressivo competition, of course, we are hoping that musicians who otherwise may not have means to travel to New York City for a
Right.
competition would be able to connect through internet and perform worldwide and connect with a musician in New York City and with a musician in Finland and with a judge in China and with a judge in France because the judges from all those different countries will be connected in real time.
Mhm.
That
This experience is definitely going to empower people who had a difficulty in getting over that barrier.
Right, right, right.
Right. And with that, I would like to play a short trailer portraying the actual platform which we are using, virtual concert halls. And it's a platform which created a system and uses the technology provided by television industry to connect musicians in real time with a good sound and a good picture which will represent truthfully their art. So that was the idea. And that is the idea behind both the Virtual Concert Halls company, which is providing the technology and support and producers. And we have professional musicians working as producers here. They understand in depth what the sound needs to be, what the picture needs to be for the artist on stage, because they are artists on stage. And they learned the production and producers tricks and technology and everything. So they're providing this dual support to our contestants who will come on board and perform as musicians, both as musicians and as a television broadcasting professionals. So, and to close up, I would like to offer both of you, Jonghun and Robert, please, if you would like to convey a message to our colleagues and to our future contestants, this is the time to do it.
Well, I think this is the wonderful opportunity for everyone, including myself, music judge. I'd like to see anyone. I mean, you can be a new face. It's completely open to anyone. So we can build a new platform of the music industry that go beyond what we have at the moment, and we can create a new tradition of the music from now on. So hopefully, I can see you on live from now on. So please join us. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to just say absolutely, just come join us. And we're looking for new faces, but we're looking for old faces, and we're looking for any faces, and we're looking for. I mean, that I think that's like when we were talking about the doors are wide open, and um, I I've been a part of a lot of different sort of festivals and competitions and done things myself, and uh, the dynamic of this competition is fantastic. There, there you're going to be able to try out new technology and do something kind of new and weird and strange and like it'll be out of your comfort zone. That's for sure. Or not, and this might be the thing that you love to do. And I think all of that's good, and it's the beginning. So there, and it's the beginning, and we're not setting any standards or any bars or any rules and so forth. So this is definitely the time to kind of break out and like see what it's all about, and the connectivity that this festival and competition is putting together is fabulous. You definitely want to get in front of the judges and some of the other like mechanisms that are happening behind. It's an awesome opportunity.
Thank you, Jonghun. Thank you, Robert. And to sum up, I want to say that, dear contestants, you will meet these judges and many other people who are coming also to introduce themselves and to speak to you. And when I was in the competition age and entering many competitions, I remember one of the probably the most um, things I always looked forward to was to actually meet the judges, to actually get a chance to hear in person live what they had to say, how what they the criticism, of course, and also of them sharing the wealth of their experience, because these were older people who were ahead of me in their career, in their um, accomplishment, and I wanted to learn from them. And what I found through my experiences, the judges are always not what I expected them to be. And I expected them to be those monuments of cold stone and exuding fear, but they always turned out to be warm, welcoming, and generous people who loved me, who wanted to share their experience with me, who wanted to help me, to open new doors to me. And that is the community of the judges and music promoters and the managers and music educators who are together here in the Sound Espressivo competition for you. So uh, be with us and come back again tomorrow. We will be presenting more people behind the scenes of Sound Espressivo. You'll get to know us all. Thank you for being with us. It
Thank you,
was
Anna.
Thank you very
thank you,
much.
thank you for sharing your thoughts and for being with us today. It was a great
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you.
Bye.